Welcome to the place on the internet I talk about comic books. I'm broadcasting from a public park in Madrid today. It's the only semi-quiet place or semi-private place, despite hundreds of people around me, that I could find, as I'm sharing an Airbnb with my bandmates, and there is no privacy. So this is an emergency video, and because I just wanted to stay on top of a topic that I saw out in the world. I commented on it in my newsletter, but I'm going to do a little follow-up here if that's okay. So Mark Millar had a panel on his YouTube channel. That sort of thing is fun and insightful. I'm glad to watch it. It's cool. One of the gentlemen on it, however, I'll put a little thing right here. You can take a look. One of the gentlemen on it, Kerry Andrews, I believe I'm saying his name. I never know if he's got a funny spelling of his name. I think it's Kerry. Kari, maybe Kari. At any rate, Kari mentioned the sort of self-censorship and freezing of creativity that goes into our work in 2024 because of what you might call cancel culture. Or if you're being pedantic, you can say accountability culture, whatever the fuck you want to call it. We all know what I'm talking about. And Dennis, I believe I'm saying his first name right, Camp, responded with, hey, you know, I understand what you're saying, but we got to be honest. It's not cancel culture per se. It's it's feedback. It's just feedback to your creative work. And a lot of that is coming from marginalized people or underrepresented people who are being heard for the first time, and sometimes it can be uncomfortable to hear their critique of your work, but that's just what it is. It's not a canceling, blah, blah. Okay, now, two things can be true, of course, but I saw the response to this conversation, and if I could just address no one specifically, but just some of the things I saw. There was this sort of who would ever freeze themselves creatively? Who would ever hold back creatively for fear of canceling? What could they possibly want to put out in this world that would make them second guess like that? I just wanted to offer a little counter argument here. And this is based on my experience in comic books, which is now on 10 years, and both things that I've experienced and things that editors have told me from their experience. Okay, so what things might a creator be withholding in this moment for fear of the response? Not the pushback, Mr. Camp. I'm sorry, I understand your point, but it's intellectually dishonest and it's insufficient to the conversation, because pushback doesn't cost you your career. What Kari was referring to was actual cost, not, hey, people dislike me. As creative people, we have to reconcile that there's always going to be somebody that dislikes you, and that's fine. However, their ability to destroy your life is, if not new, at least has gained widespread acceptance and is now the cultural norm. I'm sorry, that's what we're discussing when we discuss canceling. We're not discussing feedback, we're not discussing pushback. Those are ridiculous notions. No real person, no creative person, no person who puts their work out in the world doesn't get past that after a couple times getting slapped around by a critic or the internet. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a willingness and perhaps a fondness to dismantle, derail, or destroy people's careers or their larger lives. So what are some things that people might be holding back for fear that could potentially happen to them? Well, let's start with the one I saw. Do these guys really want to use slurs? Okay, let's start really simple then. Yeah. Sometimes it is necessary. Let me hit you with an adult idea here. That if you're going to try to convey some version of your lived reality, to do that without the way that people actually speak, without approximating or exaggerating, doing a hyper version thereof, or even a toned down version thereof for some type of affect, but it must have the ring of truth to it. Otherwise, you are writing science fiction, And really, honestly, that is not even very good science fiction. So, yes, you are going to occasionally, if conveying real people, real sentiments that people hold in this larger world, you are going to need to use language that is unpleasant, that is hurtful, that is ugly. And I can tell you with 100% personal experience and knowing many dozens of creators, which, by the way, I should mention, are almost uniformly left-leaning liberal to edging into maybe progressive. I would argue performative progressive, but it doesn't matter. They would identify perhaps as progressive. The point is, these are not your political enemies, although such a fucking ridiculous idea, but these are not your political enemies. These are people who may be actually driving at sentiments that you would not just be sympathetic to, but would see as essential. And these people are holding back their work. These people are being less creative than they want to be because they can't depict a reality that they see, or a harsher reality that they want to use to illustrate a point, because they are in fear of their careers. They are in fear of somebody misreading a character's use of a slur as the author's excusing of that behavior, which, I'm coming from a different school. I do not think it is my job to judge my characters. In fact, I think that's asinine. However, it is the way that many writers write, and even those writers are unable to do their jobs right now. So let's talk a little bit more about it. Being misunderstood for your character's behavior. I can say this with absolute experience, not on my part, but having witnessed this in creative ventures that I've been in, and also having heard from many editors on this, that writers are afraid to put anything reasonable or unreasonable into the words of their villains. So their antagonists are these non-characters in the current moment, because if they put something severe in their mouth, something truly evil, then they feel that a idiot reader who is, I shouldn't say even idiot, a intentionally disingenuous and malicious reader is going to attempt to assign that thought to them, to the writer. And they live in fear of this. Likewise, you can't make your villains too reasonable. They can't have a point, right? Because if they said a true thing and were also villainous, then that disingenuous scumbag reader is going to say, and by the way, I'm not talking about all readers, don't fucking take me out of context, that select audience of gotcha, hey, I'm trying to ruin your life, readers will take that nuanced position that the villain is having, and which is part of a larger identity, by the way. It's part of I'm a villain, but also, I think Medicare for all, right? So if your character has these gray zones, like a real person, God forbid, but they are the antagonist, then many creators in 2024, and again, if you don't believe me, you're not talking to anyone, I assure you, or you're not talking to people in mainstream comics. Perhaps on the SPX fringes of things, but everybody I talk to in that circle says they're scared shitless. So I don't know who these people are talking about. I think that's why I have to read this as this questioning of what are they trying to do, use slurs? I have to read that as completely disingenuous, because or you have no creative social life. You're not dealing with other creators. So the last thing that I would like to say pulls from that last bit, which is, just as your character, your villains can't have nuance, your situations can't have nuance. One of the greatest works of sequential art fiction, we can all agree, if you hate superheroes, if you like superheroes, if you don't have any interest in mainstream comics or any type of commentary on them, Watchmen is still a major work, right? Okay, so there is a sexual assault in Watchmen, and it is handled with the type of emotional nuance, the type of web of understanding and misunderstanding that we have of ourselves that you would expect from actual people in real life. It is a better written piece of fiction than people give it credit, because characters who should hate each other, if we were dealing in the primary colors of genre fiction, typically characters who should hate each other do not. They're sympathetic to each other in whatever way. They allow for the idea that time can heal, and there's no explicit statement if that notion that time can heal is a cope that person is applying to themselves because they can't deal with the trauma, or if they truly believe that, because again, that's a gray that requires nuance. And I can assure you that there are a great many creators who are terrified to include that nuance in their current work. And I'm sorry, if my tone is nasty, it's because I don't like pretending not to know something that you know. I think that that's an ugly behavior for an adult. It is very internet, and it's just a waste of everyone's time. I mean, look, I don't know how to tell you stories without getting into people's business and exposing people in a way that I think is tattletale-y and ugly, but editors will just straight out tell you, hey, if we do that, people are going to try to harm you. There are editors that are that honest. And when you say, what are they scared of? Yeah, they're scared to say slurs. That's what it is. Everybody just wants to get off an N-word. No. I mean, goddamn. I mean, if that's where your head is at, if you see somebody that says, yeah, you know, I'm a little nervous about the moment. I don't feel that honest work is going to be received in an honest way. And your reply to them is, oh, why? Because you want to do terrible caricatures of people of color? No, nobody thinks that. I don't know who this villain that you've created in your head is. I don't know who this doof that you're constantly fighting to educate is. But that person is not real. Which actually, let's bring it to caricature. Eduardo Risso, right? One of the best. Even when he was doing 100 Bullets, which is 100 years ago, his character designs lean into caricature. Go read 100 Bullets. If you thought that major work that's spawned 100 crime comics and is really in its own right important, until it goes off the rails and whatever, but if you think that work could be made now, you're dumb. And if you think that it shouldn't be made now, you're dumb. So something has been lost. So this is all to say, sorry, you're not my enemy. I'm not trying to shit on you, to the people that said this. I just saw a few people voice this idea that to feel any apprehension in this moment must be because you're hiding something ugly that you want to get out in the world, when in fact it's the exact opposite. People want to get beauty out into the world, and they're scared that there's an anti-beauty brigade. That's it. Enough with the anti-art bullshit.